Okay. Synchronization. Whew, okay. Hey you, welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be a little quick video about a phone that I've been having the pleasure of testing out today, which is the Honor View 20. Thank you to John from Honor for lending it to me, because I wouldn't have had the chance to actually get some proper hands-on with the device without him there. So this is actually his phone. So yeah, thank you to John. The View 20 is the latest addition to Honor's lineup in their flagship range. I'm going to be comparing it a lot to the OnePlus 6T, which I also own, mainly because of the price comparison. It's only £30 more for this one versus the Honor View 20. So yeah, let's get started. The Honor View 20 prides itself on its camera and its display, not to mention the actual industrial design itself, which is also incredible. But the camera on the back is the world's first 48 megapixel sensor in a smartphone, and then you've got a 25 megapixel on the front. The rear camera does also have other modes like the 12 megapixel and the 7 megapixel mode, I believe. But there's loads and loads of options for you to play around with the camera. And I went outside today and I've been testing it all the day as well, so I'll get onto the camera as well. But first of all, let's mention the design. So the phone itself has this holographic V-shaped rainbow coloured back on the black edition, and on the blue one it's sort of like a different shades of blue, like pale blue, white, all that kind of stuff on there as well. But it's glass on both sides, curved back, flat panel on the front, and you've got the USB-C on the bottom with this aluminium railing on the sides and everything like that. Headphone jack at the top, IR blaster as well, which is really handy for some people. Volume rocker on the side, power button just beneath it. All the standard shortcuts for Honor and Huawei phones, so double clicking the volume button gets you straight in to take a photo, and just all the other standard Huawei Honor stuff that you normally get. But moving on to the display itself, you've got the world's first cutout camera available in the UK, which is, honestly, I actually quite like it. I've been watching videos on this, I've been playing games on this, I've been doing all sorts, and it disappears in like 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes. It's the same kind of principle as, like I said, with the 6T, where you have the notch on the top of the phone, but with this, it's still a little bit more intrusive than actually having the cutout. I kind of prefer this display, simply because it's tucked away in the corner instead of the middle. It's still in the corner of the phone, but because it's also got the display around it, it kind of vanishes quite quickly. In a lot of cinematic shots as well, you barely get any content in the corners of the display. It's quite rare that you see that. That's normally worth noting. You'll get stuff obviously in the rule of thirds, you'll get stuff right in the middle, and the darker areas will sort of just be pushed out to the sides, more typically anyway. But the display, the design, the usability, everything is fantastic. Honor have also brought in gesture navigation, which is apparent on most phones now. So both my Samsung with the One UI update and my OnePlus 6T have gesture navigation for the basic functionality of the phone. You've got standard swipe up from the middle, gets you to home. Swipe up and hold gets you to the multitasking, and swiping from the sides gets you back. And I know this is the same on the Huawei phones as well. But swiping from the side is something that I've actually enabled on my Samsung as well. I feel like I don't use it as much. I kind of prefer having all of it on the bottom, but that's just personal preference. But it's still quite handy to have for people who are just getting into the swiping gesture thing. This is quite an easy way to set it out. So having different parts of the display actually used for different navigations, like obviously you'd have the 3 separate buttons normally, that's what this phone does really well. Obviously the rest of the general specs of the phone are the display itself, which is 6.4 inches. You've got the 8GB of RAM, this one is the 128GB model, and 4000 mAh battery as well. Okay, so moving on to the good stuff, let's talk about the camera. Like I said earlier, I did go out. There's not a lot to photograph near me. I've got a whole forest and a lake back up there, but the weather's been pretty rubbish the last few days. Today is the first proper day that the sun's actually come out, so it's sort of just really bright and really sunny, and then mud everywhere. So I didn't get a chance to go all the way up and get some really good photos, but I did take some stuff in my local area. I've got some really nice shots. For example, this is the first one I actually took with the phone. Obviously, this kind of composition is very tricky for any smartphone, but I think it was handled really well on this particular phone with the 48 megapixel sensor mode. So you can see the flower itself is in focus and well exposed. And then the sky in the background, while it is still blown out because it is very, very bright with the clouds reflecting the sun, it's actually handled it quite well, and you can still see the shapes of all the sky in the background. It's not just completely white and blown out completely. You've also got shots like this fence that I took a picture of. This has got incredible clarity in the foreground. You can see the depth of field is already starting to kick in, well, 1 or maybe 2 rails out, while still getting everything else pretty nicely exposed. Again, the skies a bit blown out in this one, and for this one I probably wouldn't have chosen to use the 48 megapixel mode, because you can see it's doing a little bit of over sharpening on the rest of the image. But realistically speaking, with this you could chuck on a couple of effects, just chuck into Lightroom, change the tonality, maybe add a little bit of softness, and then you'd be perfect, good to go. This one as well here, of the trees above me, you can actually see something that just absolutely fascinates me about this camera is how much you can zoom in. Like, you know, with the full photo oriented in landscape like this, I can zoom it in to fill the screen, no loss of quality. I can zoom it in even further and just keep zooming in. And even with this, you can't really tell on the phone that I'm, you know, from the camera. But even using that, you could have that and that would be a wallpaper. Easy. You wouldn't see the fact that it's zoomed in, you wouldn't see any loss of quality or anything like that. The actual quality of the image is insane. So in good lighting conditions where you can have something like this, you know, say if you have that, for example, covers the camera quite nicely with one of the branches, still has this really nice texture, you would never know that it's been completely zoomed in and cropped like hell. But yeah, the actual quality of the photos that come out of this are ridiculous. I think some of the photos can come out a little bit oversaturated, but it's again part of the whole AI camera thing trying to adjust. So this picture of the flag on the golf course, for example, obviously added loads and loads of contrast, tried to keep the sky really blue, the grass really green, and the flag really red. So it's had to push all the colours, increasing the saturation, and it's also added that contrast as well to try and complement it. But to me, this one's a little bit over processed. I feel like if I wanted this kind of image, I would have taken one that was completely flat and then edited it myself. But even still, like I say, to someone who was just taking a random photo, it would look amazing. Really good quality coming from this phone. Selfies as well. I took a couple of selfies, testing out the different AI camera modes for that as well, and the beauty modes, that kind of stuff. Some of them look a bit weird. I won't lie, the stage light one, just mainly because of my hair and my beard, but just did not work for me at all. Through my glasses you can still see the background. The feathering around the edges is a little bit, you know, uneven. That's trying to get all my hair. I'd imagine it'd be quite difficult to get something like this with anyone who's got any hair that's not completely flat, or someone who's basically completely bald. Like, I'm halfway there, but you know, not quite. You know, if you look on the jacket, the actual vignetting effect and the darkening around my arms and my shoulders is really nice. The quality of my beard hairs as well, that kind of stuff, that's always appreciated. That's really, really nice on there. But like I say, it's just the hair and the top of the head that did not quite work. Again, you can see some shots that I've taken just completely on a whim, sort of lean, take the picture, come back, have been completely overexposed. But because you have the manual exposure option on the camera, that's something I just kept using. So that's an easy fix in a sense. Even when you're still in the viewfinder, you can adjust those kind of settings to make sure that your photo doesn't come out overexposed or too blown out. The very, very last thing I wanted to talk about was the video taken on this phone. The stabilization on the back and front cameras is fantastic. Stabilization isn't as great on the photography side, but on the video side, it's really good. So yeah, the combination of optical stabilization and electronic stabilization makes the camera very, very smooth on this phone. When taking any video, I found that I didn't have any issues with it being too wobbly. But then when I was in the viewfinder for the camera, on both the 48 megapixel and the 12 megapixel modes, even moving it slightly just like that, or sort of tilting the camera around, you get a lot of jolt and a lot of blur as well. But on the video side, absolutely fantastic. Overall thoughts? Really, really nice phone. I'm so glad that I got the chance to use it today. I think one of the things for me when I'm looking for a smartphone is design straight off the bat. The design on this just wins. You know, it's incredible. The display looks amazing. Even when it's turned off, it just looks like this perfect sheet of glass. And on the back with that hologram effect, I definitely wouldn't have a case with this. I'd be terrified, but I would never have a case with this. Feel in the hand is really good. The performance so far has been outstanding. I haven't seen any hiccups, had any issues, anything like that. I'm still personally not a fan of Huawei and Honor's skin on top of Android. Just personal preference. I know some people love it, some people really don't, some people don't care. But if this had a Google Play version or a stock Android version, I'd be straight onto it. Price to performance wise, when you compare this with the OnePlus 6T, excluding all things like the launchers and, you know, the software, that kind of stuff, the actual performance and the results that you get from these phones is very similar, but I think that Honor just beats it on the camera side and obviously being £30 cheaper, you can't really go wrong with this phone. I'd highly recommend it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you ever get the chance to try one of these out, or you're considering buying one, I would highly recommend this phone. Like I say, if you're used to, or if you've used the Huawei or Honor UI before and you haven't had any issues with it, then I'd say go for it. If you get the chance to see it in a store, see it in a shop, anything like that, definitely go over there. Definitely spend the time talking to someone about if this phone's going to be right for you. But I definitely think for the value of this phone, you're getting so much more than £500 worth of materials and equipment. Let me know what you think. If you've used this phone before, let me know down in the comments, see what you think about it, what you liked about it, if you disliked anything. And same about this video. Anything you did like, anything you didn't like, just let me know. All feedback is appreciated, and I will see you guys very soon.